In this video, I'm going to show you how I made a small painting in my sketchbook, starting with shapes, and then by just layering and adding shapes and line, building up a painting that is rich in texture and just uses a very limited palette to create a lovely surface. So let me show you how I started. I made these templates out of watercolour paper, and I'm just drawing around them onto the paper that I have painted black. And then I'm blocking in the shapes with some white paint, just so I get a really strong contrast between light and dark. You can't get much stronger than black and white. Once the shapes are blocked in, I then picked up a green pencil and started writing just some thoughts down. And I did this painting on my son's birthday. He was turning 19, and so this is all about my memories of when he was born and becoming a mother. And so this is the beginning of the painting, and so it's quite personal really, what I've written. But I'm going to cover it up, and it's only going to have that personal meaning to me. But what I'm trying to do is just sort of celebrate this day in paint for me. And so that's why I'm writing this stuff in here. And what I've written here is Ryan's mum at last, because I didn't become Ryan's mum until I was 40 years old, and I'd waited a long time to be a mother. With this colour shaper, I'm just smudging the paint. I know that these words are going to get covered up, and I'm just trying to create different sorts of marks. Now I'm coming in with another shape. I'm sort of creating a symmetry here because I'm using the same shape, and I really don't know how what's going to eventuate, but by layering them up, I'm just making it a little bit more complex and a bit more interesting. And each time I come in with paint, I'm coming in with a slightly darker shade of a paint that's gone before. So I'm still working very much in neutrals here, but just blocking in another shape, which will cover up some of those words. So no one's going to be able to read my secret thoughts, but they're there, and that's the kind of way I like to incorporate text in my work. Now some time for colour. Because I've only dealt with the shapes before, I'm now bringing in some line. So with the blue paint, I'm coming in and creating lines and setting up a kind of a pattern, because they're repeated vertical lines that each one is kind of different, but they have a lot in common as well. And then after all those lines, to put that block of blue on the right, that's another difference. Now coming in with some more colour. So the last time it was a cool colour, this time I'm bringing in a warm colour, and it's sort of a yellow ochre, probably with a little bit of that blue mixed into it as well, just a tiny bit. And I'm just veiling it over, using it as a glaze really, to warm up sections of the composition. So that was all thin paint, so now it's time to come in over the top with some thick paint. So I'm drawing in another shape, and I'll fill this in with some thick paint. So all the time I'm doing opposites. If I do thin paint, I come in then with thick paint. If I do a shape, I'll come in after that with a line. If I use wet media, I'll come in after that with dry media. Always looking for opposites and differences. And here I'm just sort of blocking out some of the little black shapes that I don't really want to have anymore, and adding in another shape down here. This is the same shape but flipped over. And once again with the limited palette, just keeping to a sort of a warm neutral, coming in over the top of those lines and shapes. Now I'm coming in with line again, and these are doing this with a pencil, just sort of scratching through the paint while it's kind of still wet. And I'm bringing some pattern in at this point and repeating those sort of lines and patterns up here with paint. And here I'm just blocking out more of that dark, the black. So I want the main focus to be where the lights and darks are. And I'm going to create a shape here by cutting in with black paint to create a more interesting shape on the outside. So with the black paint, I can cut in and create a more interesting shape at the top and around the sides of the sort of big block area that is light. Then just softening edges with the colour shaper. And now I'm just sort of allowing the colour shaper to spread that black paint around to create texture. And this creates all those lovely accidental marks that you can't sort of manufacture on purpose. You have to allow the colour shaper to do the sort of marks that it will do. And just defining that shape a bit more with the paint. And on this side I'm dragging over more of the ochre to make it warmer at the top. Just sort of veiling that last shape that I painted in and integrating that into the surface. Coming through with some more line and writing, putting my son's name in there. And then I brought in a bit of green just to add something different again and make that more of a focus. Here I'm just trying something out. I don't think it's really going to work, so I smudge that with the colour shaper and create some really lovely texture, beautiful marks with that black paint sort of veiling over the top of the thick paint that's underneath. With the black paint now I'm just creating a more interesting shape to the top of the painting. And now I'm just coming in and adding shapes and interest into that main body. And this is a shape that I've seen in the painting and I want to kind of repeat. So I've got an area of quite a lot of thin paint under there, so to put a little bit of thick paint over the top sort of gives something to focus on, which makes it have a little bit more definition. And so that's how we build up the layers and create an interesting painting.